And just so you know, we're 2 minutes out, so I'm just starting the recording up because it takes time to get the live stream.
Yeah.
There we go. And the recordings are all on for when we're ready.
I think we all should have went to where Ralph is.
Yeah,
I know.
I'd be very happy to hold my meetings there.
I plowed about a foot of snow out of my driveway on Monday evening, and then Tuesday afternoon went and did the same thing all over again for about another foot.
All drifted.
And you're going to get to do some more this weekend, so I hear.
I hear that, yeah. I'm gonna have to put gas in the truck.
Last I heard, there wouldn't be much this weekend.
Oh, really? I heard a lot. Maybe it changed.
I'm hoping it's changing, but yeah.
Yeah, I like Tom's forecast better.
I prefer Tom's forecast as well. You're our official weatherman, Tom.
Okay. Can I get paid like they do?
Yeah, where else can you have an 80% accuracy rate and still keep your job,
80?
Is it as high as 80%? I thought it was the other way around.
Yeah, me too.
Ralph, I have 7 o'clock.
I was just gonna say I have 7 o'clock. Should we get the show on the road?
All the recordings are all up and running.
All right. So welcome everyone to the February 2021 meeting of the Thomaston Planning and Zoning Commission. Seated for tonight's meeting, we'll have Joe Hartz, Tom Mueller, Elizabeth Jameson, Brian Davis, and myself, your chairman, Ralph Salone. Brian, don't forget you're muted if you're going to say anything. Let's see. First on our agenda is the annual meeting. We have to do nomination and election of officers, the commission chairman, vice chairman, and secretary. Does anybody care to make any nominations?
This is Joe Hartz. I would suggest that Ralph remain as chairman, that Tom remain as vice chairman, and that myself, Joe Hartz, remain as secretary.
Is that a motion?
Yes, that's a motion to keep the same board of officers.
Is there a second on?
I'll second Tom Mueller.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Last chance, Liz. You want to be chairman?
She
All in
laughed kind
favor?
of ominously about
Oh, I guess we'll do a roll call vote. Joe Hartz, how do you vote?
Joe Hartz, aye.
Tom Mueller, how do you vote?
Tom Mueller, aye.
Elizabeth Jameson, how do you vote?
Elizabeth Jameson, aye.
And Brian Davis, how do you vote?
Brian Davis, aye.
Motion. Oh, and Ralph Salone also votes aye. Motion carries unanimously. Stays.
Okay. And Bill Guerrera just entered the meeting.
I see. Okay, but yeah, I didn't seat him though, and I got a whole bunch seated, so
No problem.
Bill can chill out for this one. A review of commission bylaws for possible revisions. And prior to the meeting, Stace, you and I were chatting, and you didn't think there was anything burning that needed to be revised?
No, everything, when I look through it, everything more or less reads as we would want it to read. The only changes that would be obviously necessary is updating at the end the date and the fact that your secretary is no longer William Glood.
And yeah, I'm still a little confused on that because in 2015, those were the correct officers and it should have been signed off. I see it's not signed either, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure whether that got attended to or not, or if it was,
I'm going to say apparently not. So how about
Hey.
this? Go ahead.
How did this come up? I'm sorry, I just logged in. It's Bill.
It's our annual thing.
Yeah.
and
hello?
actually we, how it originally came up is because we were setting it up for wetlands for their meeting. ZBA, they're on a slightly different timetable. They do things in April, but they had asked, oh, are we doing election? So that got Pat and I looking, and we realized that in fact, PNC did not have an annual meeting at all last year. And elections were overdue. So that's why was on here for tonight.
Oh, wow.
So I think maybe the proper thing to do is for someone to make a motion to update the sign off sheet on the bylaws and actually have it signed off and dated.
That's Tom Mueller. I make a motion that we keep the bylaws as they are and just amend it at the end with a statement that the bylaws have been reviewed and re-accepted on, let's say, today's date, and then new signatures from the current officers.
That sounds pretty good. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second. Elizabeth Jameson, second.
Any discussion on the motion? Okay, Joe Hartz, how do you vote?
Joe Hart's aye.
Tom Mueller, how do you vote?
Tom Mueller, aye.
Elizabeth Jameson, how do you vote?
Elizabeth Jameson, aye.
Brian Davis, how do you vote?
Brian Davis, aye.
And Ralph Salone also votes aye. So again, that motion carries unanimously, Stacy.
Okay.
So on to our first public hearing. Special permit application number 2020-11-18-01 for a mixed-use residential unit per section 21.9 mixed-use residential units at 486 South Main Street in a general commercial zone. And the applicant is T4 Holding LLC. That's you, Mr. Tupance, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. This is the first time we actually get to chat with you. So do you want to give us a very brief overview?
Sure. Very briefly, I submitted an application for mixed use. I think I was fairly thorough with the application. In reviewing page 86 of the zoning regulations for mixed use, I've detailed where we've met the requirements for items B 1 through 5. I'd be happy to go through those, but I have a brief description on that page that you see there. Everything is in compliance. And as far as the special permit criteria under item C, I've listed a description of those items also, which seems to be an appropriate use for this property. There's plenty of available parking. We're only proposing that the unit be used for one person. And I think we meet all of the regulations.
And Stacy, which which actual property is this?
This is, there used to be a farmer's insurance in the building, 486 South Main Street. Bear with me, I'll scroll down a little bit. This is the driveway into the Whispering Pines development. And the property in question is right here.
Yeah, and one of those is or was a sign place?
The sign shot that's here, the building, but that is not the subject of this application. The subject of this application is over here.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I knew which building we were talking about.
Sure, and if I may, the application had been submitted back in November. And as Mr. Tupans indicated, everything was very complete. We scheduled the public hearing and everything. However, unfortunately, for reasons that are not clear, the Republican American had an oversight in terms of publishing our legal notice. So unfortunately, we could not have the public hearing last month as planned. So we, in the interim, did make sure that the notice ran in the newspaper, it ran properly, and all abutting neighbors, including all of the residents of Whispering Pines, were noticed, and we have received no comments or questions other than very basic, what is the proposal type questions.
And when you reviewed it, you didn't see any issues, right?
No, I did not. It seems to me it lines up very nicely with the regulation.
Okay. So does any member of the commission have any questions, comments, or concerns about this application?
It's Joe Hartz. I have a question. Is the use changing from what it was? Has it been used as an apartment in a commercial space? This is to the property owner.
No, it's not changing from what it was. The apartment space is on the second story in accordance with your section in the general provisions. The lower level is used as office space. Currently, I have an office and my electrician uses part of the building for his office. So we share that lower level as office space, and just the upper level, which there's a plan, is the proposed use as residential.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, so I'll open it up for public comment. I don't see any members of the general public logged in tonight, but we'll just wait, we'll just pause a moment in case somebody is trying to log in. And then we'll continue.
Yeah, Ralph, this is Bill. And Stacy, can you put the assessor's card information back up that has all the
Sure.
square footage in the photograph?
Let me just get it turned correctly. Yes, okay, here we go.
Let's see. Yeah, thank you. That's it. Thank you.
So Bill, just for your information, that's the building closest to the bank.
Yes, sir. You can scroll up a little bit, Stacy.
Sure.
That goes 1994 was when it was put up. Okay.
So I don't see anyone from the public trying to log in or even attempting. So I guess at this point I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Tom Mueller, so moved.
Is there a second on the motion?
Joe Hart, second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, Joe Hartz, how do you vote?
Joe Hart's aye.
Tom Mueller, how do you vote?
Tom Mueller, aye.
Elizabeth Jamison, how do you vote?
Elizabeth Jamison, I.
Brian Davis, how do you vote?
Brian Davis, aye.
And Ralph Salone also votes aye. So that motion carries unanimously and the public hearing is closed. Do we wish to take action on this at the moment and we can let George go on his way for the evening?
Tom Mueller, I make a motion that we approve the special permit application for mixed-use residential unit at 486 South Main Street. Application number 2020-11-18-01.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second. Elizabeth Jamison, second.
Thanks. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, Joe Hartz, how do you vote?
Joe Hart's aye.
Tom Mueller, how do you vote?
Tom Mueller, aye.
Elizabeth Jamison, how do you vote?
Elizabeth Jamison, I.
And Brian Davis, how do you vote?
Brian Davis, aye.
And Ralph Salone also votes aye. So that motion also carries unanimously. So you're all set, Mr. Tupance.
And
Okay. Thank
Mr.
you, I
Tubans,
appreciate
I'll
it.
be sending you information in the
Hello?
mail. Hello?
Hi, this is Sally. I just want you to know I'm here listening in.
Okay, we have you.
I had a little trouble getting in again, but I've been listening. And I will
Okay.
just keep on listening. Okay, hon? Bye.
Bye-bye. We'll be sending your approval letter in the mail and filing the notice on the land records, and then everything is all official.
All right, I appreciate everyone's time this evening. Thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
You too now.
Okay, next on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes from our January 6th, 2021 regular meeting. No, that was a special meeting too, and
No.
our January
Oh,
12th special
yeah.
meeting. They were both special meetings.
They were both special meetings. The packet only has the January 6th in it. Miscommunication. I was supposed to get you the January 12th and I regret I did not. So if you can table the January 12th, I will get that to you.
All right, I don't see where we have a choice. Does anybody see any issues in the meeting minutes for January 6th that need to be addressed?
I'm good. I just reviewed them.
Tom Mueller, I make a motion to accept the January 6th special meeting minutes as presented.
Is there a second to the motion?
Joe Hart, second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Joe Hartz, how do you vote?
Joe Hart's aye.
Tom Mueller, how do you vote?
Tom Mueller, aye.
Elizabeth Jamison, how do you vote?
Elizabeth Jamison, I.
And Brian Davis, how do you vote?
Brian Davis, aye.
And Ralph Salone also votes aye. So the January 6th meeting minutes are approved as submitted. On to old business, draft regulation amendments, commercial vehicles, signs, solar, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let's pick the next most important one. I think, what was it? Stormwater?
That's what she said. Well, we lost her.
Ralph, that's down under new business.
Hold on. Why, yes, it is. All right. Stacy, any, do we want to tackle any of the regulation amendments? Stacy, if we're talking, if you're talking, we can't hear you. Did your mic come unplugged? I see the look of shock on your face.
think we lost everything with Stacy.
Well, we still have video. And I see your lips moving, but I don't hear any sound. How about right on the headset where the mic plugs in?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see her video. Yeah.
Let's see, say a few syllables for us, Stacy.
We can do this in sign language.
Not sure why it's not working, she says.
Do you want to? All right, let's just check. Did you unplug the connector from the computer and plug it back in? Still nothing. Do you want to try logging out of the meeting and back in, or will that shut the meeting off? Okay. All right, we're gonna pause for a moment for Stacy to try Plan B.
Yeah, Stacy, can you?
She's not at the computer.
All right, maybe she can chat.
Hey, Stacy, I have an idea. Do you want to try dialing in on your cell phone for audio? Oh, you're way ahead of me, I see.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, we can. What'd you do?
I called in.
Okay.
I have no idea what happened.
You know, modern technology.
Never a dull moment, huh?
Hey, so we were at the old business portion. We were talking about the draft regulation amendments. And is there anything really that you want to go over there? I know we got to do the stormwater stuff, and as Tom reminded me, that's under new business. Should we just hold off anything there until we get the stormwater stuff done?
Can't hear you, Stacy.
Now you're muted, Stacy.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Gotcha.
What'd you say?
Oh, my goodness.
All right,
Ugh.
so any text amendments we need to worry about that would take priority over the stormwater stuff?
I would say no, these have waited a little bit. I do want to get to the solar, particularly just because of some questions that have come around on possible usage of various different like properties in town and brownfields, et cetera. So I do want us to get back to that.
Okay.
But if I had to triage things, I would say the stormwater is probably the priority at this point.
All right, well, let's not tackle any of those other text amendments tonight. Let's move on to the new business. Number one under new business is discussion of possible text amendment for detached accessory apartments. So we had quite a long discussion on this last month, and I think the gist of the discussion was that we really weren't agreed on which way to proceed. But did you, Stace, did you pull other town regs for us? From other towns, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm trying to get them up right now.
Did you email them to us?
I did not yet,
Why don't you email them
but
to
I
us?
can. I will.
Yeah, why don't you email them to us tomorrow, and we'll
Okay.
pick it up at the next meeting.
Okay.
Because I really want to get that stormwater stuff taken care of, because that's something we have to do. So let's move on to item number 2, discussion of text amendments to zoning and subdivision regulations required per the general permit for the discharge of stormwater for small municipal separate storm sewer systems, an MS4 general permit issued in 2017. And it was issued in 2017. It's good for 5 years.
Correct.
Yeah. So Stacy, why don't you bring us up to speed, and we'll go from there.
Okay. So I have, or at least I should have, assuming things are working, which is a big gift for me tonight. But there should be a memo on the screen that you should see regarding some changes that we do need to make into various land use regulations as pertains to stormwater discharge in order to be compliant with our general permit. On January 20th, 2016, the state of Connecticut issued new general permits to all municipalities that have more than 1,000 residents in urbanized areas, and that does include Thomaston. And that permit contained additional requirements along with deadlines for their completion. These were new requirements over and above what had been part of previous permits. I won't belabor anything, but highlighted here are the new items that they wanted addressed. And some of this has been done. For instance, the illicit discharge detection and elimination. There was an ordinance that was recommended and has been adopted by the town. Where we are still needing to get some things done are in regard to the zoning regulations, the subdivision regulations, and to a lesser extent in the wetlands regulations. Some things that the permit requires, and that around the same time that this happened, the Naugatuck Valley Council of Governments, of which we are a member, had received a grant, and they conducted an audit of land use regulations for all 21 of their member towns to see, okay, here's what you have, here's what you may need to add in order to be compliant with the intent of the permit. So going off of that information, there are some additional things that we need to add in. So the two main areas that are going to touch on, that your commission's going to touch on, are the construction site stormwater runoff control and post-construction stormwater management in new development or redevelopment. So basically, while it's being built, and then how are you going to handle stormwater over the long haul after the site has been developed? And this brings in a few different things, like a stormwater management plan, like specifically encouraging low impact development techniques, things like that. So I have the spreadsheet. I can put it up if you want in the interest of time. I didn't, but basically, Aaron Boudris from the COG, like I said, he did the audit and was kind enough to point out some areas where we needed some changes in order to meet these requirements. And so as a part of that, I took a look around at various other towns that already have implemented some of what we're looking to do. And Torrington has some stormwater management regulations. The town of New Hartford has some stormwater management regulations. Even they're kind of long, but even the town, there's a couple other towns that I was looking at for direction on where to go with this. So what I am proposing is that we make some tweaks to the erosion and sediment control areas of the regulations. Right now, it gets mentioned in a couple of different areas, but the specific section pertaining to the erosion and sedimentation control, it just mentions the bonding, which of course is important, but there are other things that we could put in there. So I'm proposing some additions there. I am also proposing an additional section specifically related to stormwater management, the requirement for a stormwater management plan. Typically, from what I am seeing, they're usually not required for residential development, like one person developing, one house on their lot, not necessarily a requirement there. But if you're talking like a large scale residential development, or if you're talking a commercial development, certain acreage size types development, then a stormwater management plan becomes required. And it would also, as you can see here, specifically call out the need for low impact development design techniques. They'd have to articulate in the plan how they are implementing low impact development in the plan. What is their plan from stormwater in terms of no development shall result in a direct discharge of untreated stormwater either on or off site. Post-development discharge rates not greater than pre-development.
What is untreated stormwater?
The idea being, if it's hit the parking lot and, all the soup that can be in a
and
parking
picks
lot,
everything up in its
and
travels.
else.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so you're not like directly outletting that into a wetlands or directly outletting that into the town stormwater facilities, etc. There's some level of treating of keeping that out of it, and there's different techniques for doing that, and then there's the whole theory that the first inch of that comes out of the first hour of the rainstorm is when you're going to get most of the problematic stuff in the water, and how are you handling that so that doesn't land up anywhere.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that for me.
No problem. there's, if you're going to be doing this, then there's good stuff in terms of one of the things that could happen, particularly in a place that's, closely developed, is that two properties may figure out a way to share their stormwater management facilities, and, language as to how we want that to be handled. And then language in terms of maintenance, because obviously these things only work if they're properly maintained. Typical is some sort of a maintenance agreement that gets filed with the town. And as in this case in Torrington, gets filed on the land records. There is a reporting requirement. I honestly have to look into that portion of things a little bit more detailed. That might be something that's more a public works issue. But there's usually some reporting that goes on with that as well. So this is all, would potentially be a new section in your regulations. Some towns had them already before 2017 as a requirement. Some started implementing them after that. I was looking at the Torrington one, as I said. I was also looking at New Hartford because I know that they had one, a stormwater management plan requirement in place already. So that's another one of the towns I'm looking at. I can tell you that you have had previous applications that have come up that have had engineering review, where that was your consultant's first question is, do you guys have any sort of stormwater management requirements that I should be aware of when reviewing the application? So
did you email this document to us? I don't see it in my email.
No, we discussed it briefly at the last meeting. I'm not sure if I did. I may have sent it to Wetlands. I'm not sure if I sent it to you. If I did not, I apologize.
Does this kick in with, it sounds like new developments, where a site plan approval or a special permit, it's not its own permit, it dovetails in it, certain criteria
Correct.
activate, we have to pick and choose like what kind of uses or developments activate this to incorporate it
Yeah.
into their permit?
Yes. Typically, from what I'm seeing, usually it's for commercial sorts of developments. Seems to be, I've seen anywhere from half an acre to an acre in size or larger is where this kicks in. I mean, it could be, if you have a situation, I can envision places where it might be in a residential area, but it's really not so much for like in a single family development, just simply because, it can be an additional level of requirement. And the idea being that, okay, you're only putting one house on a property. It may not necessarily be the same level of impact if you have a large commercial building with a large impervious surface that people are parking on.
Well,
and other, equipment structure.
I agree. We should keep an eye on that though, because there's always the possibility that somebody's going to come and build a 15,000 square foot house on their lot too.
Oh, understood. And I do think that there is, if you have, and this is where this also dovetails into the subdivision regulations, because if you do have someone coming in who's doing a 100 lot subdivision or something else like that, obviously that's a large addition to the intake of the stormwater facilities for the town. So obviously there's some need to have some review on that there. So that's where this dovetails into the subdivision regulations. So my thought was that we get the zoning regs up and running where we needed them to be, and then we slide right into doing the subdivision. Meanwhile, inland wetlands, they don't have quite as much to put in, but they are going to be making a couple of mentions in their regulations with regard to the requirement to consider low impact development techniques. And they have different levels of review for things too. And if something is what they consider significant, then it's a mandatory public hearing and it's a much more involved process. So as a part of that process, since the whole reason you're holding it is because you're concerned about a wetlands, they're going to be potentially requiring a person to explain why did you not consider low impact development techniques. So that's the way in which they're implementing it inside of their regs.
All right, can you email this document out again if you did already?
Absolutely. No, I think unfortunately I didn't. So,
Is this a section of a couple different towns or just Torrington that we're looking
this
at?
is Torrington's. It reads pretty well. I was going to give you also, like I said, New Hartford, so you could take a look at that, and possibly one or two other towns. A lot of it's going to be the same, but there are going to be some slight differences in terms of where they call this into requirement, in terms of, the type of development or the lot size, et cetera, where they start calling this into requirement.
So do you think that between now and the next meeting, you can look through
Absolutely.
the different ones and maybe put
Yeah.
together a draft that's like the best of?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, just so, because you're going to see it when I do this, and you may have already noticed the numbering when we were looking at the commercial vehicles, I am also, how shall I say this? I am reorganizing things a little bit and putting some things more together in places that I think it makes sense for things to be together. Like, for instance, I think it makes sense for this to be near where the E&S control requirements are going to be. And it makes sense to have all of that near the flood zone requirements. So these are all kind of environmental related issues. So I'm kind of organizing it. So instead of them each being their own article, they're all going to be coming together into one area. So
Sure,
when
okay.
you see that, I didn't want you to just think, okay, what's going on here? So, because if you're looking for one of these, you're probably looking for the other. So it kind of makes sense to have them all together.
Sure. So I see in the lower left-hand corner that there's 8 pages. And what's on the last 4 pages? We haven't seen that yet. Or is it just more?
The Ridgefield
okay.
ones. Yeah.
Oh, so is this something
Theirs
maybe
were quite
that-
long.
that could impact like that? I forgot about our aquifer protection zone we have. Is that something that would dovetail into that too somehow, or?
Yeah, and I think actually that I did want to put that in the same place too, if I recall. Yeah, it all does kind of similarly related, especially insofar as, these facilities can go through those areas. So.
All right. So like I said, for the next meeting, maybe you can draft a best of for us and we'll start from
now,
there. And see what we think.
Just to more or less, would you agree that this is more or less primarily going to be geared towards more of the commercial industrial sorts of developments, or how shall I say it, large scale residential developments?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I say, yeah. How about the rest of you? What's your opinion?
That's how I feel.
I mean, if you're putting an average house on an average lot, then I don't really see the need for it. But like I said, if you're putting a 15,000 foot mansion up, then you probably need to.
And just so you understand, it's obviously it's additional engineering, but it's additional engineering that a lot of towns are requiring who have, stormwater management systems that they need to be aware of and concerned about. So it's not an unusual thing that you're expecting it, but it is something that would be engineered, and that they would also then, another sheet in the packet of plans that you would be getting would be the stormwater management plan information.
Mm-hmm. Anybody have anything else to add?
Well, I'm just curious as to why are we tackling this now if it's still valid for another 2 years?
Because each of the requirements, when we were issued the permit, and not just us, every town, when we were issued the permit, there were deadlines by which you were supposed to meet each of these things. And every year, the town does have to submit a report in terms of, here's what we've accomplished thus far. And we have done, as I said, we have done some of the things. It's not like nothing's been done, but we do need to get this done. Excuse me, I'm sorry. We do need to get this done.
I thought we lost your
Are you
audio.
there?
Sir. Yeah, I thought we lost you. Go on.
Okay, no, I temporarily turned off because my dog was trying to contribute to the conversation.
Tell them only during public hearings.
In 2022, ostensibly, we have to have the permit. We have to have the permit renewed, and obviously, we want to be able to show them that we did everything we were required to do within your time period of the last permit. So, hence, that's why we're doing this now.
Thank you.
All right, so you're gonna see if you can do a best of for our next meeting, and
Yeah.
we'll go on from there. And then let's see. All right, so next on our agenda, communications, reports of officers, staff, and committee.
Yes, hang on one second.
Okay. And your enforcement report is not in the packet, right?
No, it is here.
I just want to make sure that I'm not missing a son.
No, no. Okay. So, there were 2 items on the last report that I now moved up to a miscellaneous because they really aren't necessarily enforcement actions, but I did want you guys to be aware of them. The 2 Branch Road is a condominium complex. In the interim since the last meeting, the executive director of the Northwest Conservation District, I spoke with her. She went out, she did a site walk. I can't speak tonight. And she had some recommendations. I will be relaying them to the commission. This one, if you want, I mean, I can show it to you on the GIS. This kind of speaks to the need for how to handle stormwater. Basically, it's a condominium that was likely built before there were wetlands regulations, and where it is close to a wetlands, a large wetlands area, there are issues with water whenever there is a storm that comes through. So that was part of the residents' concerns. I was alerted, and I've spoken with the board, and that's when I had the Conservation District come out, and she has, like I said, she has a couple of recommendations, but they're somewhat limited in terms of what you can do because of the close proximity of the buildings to the wetlands. 500 South Main Street is winding down. So there's just the typical closeout review of site improvements. Each of the units are just about signed off on with a certificate of occupancy. It's just finalizing things in terms of the roadway and landscaping and, those type of site improvements, and just making sure we're on the same page with that. There were a few.
Just back up 1 second. That South Main Street, is that a town road yet? That's not a town road yet, right?
No, it is not.
Okay.
It is not.
Okay. Go ahead,
Um,
continue.
Yeah, the new actions that I have on here are universally accessory apartment issues. The two at the top are not enforcement. I reached out and they are both in the process of filling out the applications they need. So you should be seeing applications from them within the next 2 months. The bottom two both received a letter. This one is an accessory apartment that did not receive approval and it is of long standing. The property is, I believe, under contract right now, so that spurred a little hurrying. So the letter went out, and a letter was also filed on the land records on that.
Good job
Those are
there.
not up on the screen. Are they supposed to be?
Is it still not? Oh goodness, I don't know. You need to fire me as the Zoom person here because I am not doing well tonight here. Here we go. How's that?
Well, Stace, I'm not sure that any of us would be doing any better. So
It's been that kind of a day. Okay. So yeah, the next one on the list here is, that's the one filed on the land records. This is a situation, the first floor is a convenience store. The second story had gotten a mixed-use residential approval from you guys about a year and a half ago.
which one
and
is, which building is that?
Boulders.
Oh, okay.
And it came to the land use office's attention that where the ice cream store used to be, there's an accessory apartment. There's an apartment there, which is, since it's on the first floor. So that just went out. Trying to breeze through here a little bit so we don't take up all your evening unless you want me to. This Goodwin Court will likely have to go to the next step. The notice was served to the property owner who, without going into detail, made it fairly clear to the marshal who served them that they didn't intend to do anything with it. So we will likely be going to the next step on that.
That means Steve gets to buy a bigger boat.
This we had discussed briefly last month. I just wanted to let you know I've driven by a couple times since, and I have not seen the parking area taken up the way it was that one time that I went. So, while I can't say anything about what is or is not happening in the garage, the parking area has not been unavailable to the level it was that day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could have been a one-time thing.
Yeah, I'm keeping my eye on it, but it does seem like there was improvement. This one is the multiple car situation.
Yeah.
Service was made to all the property owners who needed to be served. Property owners did come in and speak with me. The owner of the vehicles came in and spoke with me. I don't see this going and being resolved in an easy fashion either.
Well,
the appeal period for my cease and desist is February 16th. At that point, I have talked with Attorney Byrne. He is ready and waiting once I inspect on February 16th.
Yeah, just go through the steps.
So that's that. I do have an update. Oh, this one will be hopefully closed out. I was contacted by the the person who's buying the property their attorney today, who advised me that everything had been removed. So obviously, when the snow is at a level such that I can see things, I can go out and confirm. And if that's where it needs to be, then I can write a follow-up letter for the land record saying that everything's been resolved, in which case that'll then be closed out. No further on that. And I do have one or two things in the nature of brief updates for an executive session.
All right, well then, that is the next thing on our agenda, so why doesn't someone make a motion to go into executive session and to invite in Stacy?
Tom Mueller, so moved at 7:54.
Is there a second?
Elizabeth Jameson, second.
Joe Hartz, how do you vote?
Joe Hart's aye.
Tom Mueller, how do you vote?
I need to amend the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, it needs to state that it's for legal reasons.
Pending legal matters, yeah.
Legal matters. Yeah.
Elizabeth, do you want to second the amended motion?
Yeah, Elizabeth Jameson, second the amended motion.
Okay. Joe Hartz, how do you vote on the amended motion?
Joe Hart's aye.
Tom Mueller, how do you vote on the amended motion?
Tom Mueller, aye.
Elizabeth Jameson, how do you vote on the amended motion?
Elizabeth Jameson, aye.
And Brian Davis, how do you vote on the amended motion?
Brian Davis, aye.
And Ralph Salone also votes aye. So go ahead, Stacy, stop the streaming and the recording.
Okay. Recording is paused.